Thrivesters, we're back. We are so back. We are wicked back, as we like to say in Boston. What's up? I am so excited to talk to you about today's topic. I'm just gonna get into it because this was a probably a life changer for me. And I'm going off schedule. I'm doing the podcast, even though this isn't a week that I record. I am literally still in my pajamas. I just can't wait to talk to you about it. But before I do that, the reason I'm in my pajamas, I want to share this with you. I took a mental health day today, which is not ironic considering the topic we're going to talk about. And what I say by a mental health day is I had a few meetings today, and I woke up this morning. I had a rough night for a number of reasons, and I woke up this morning just not feeling it, not feeling anything in terms of embracing my day, which is not like me at all. I mean, I literally jump out of bed usually. So I cannot even believe I did this. I canceled my meetings, canceled them. And I have been in my pajamas all day. It is now 1 o'clock and I've been in my pajamas all day. It has been incredible. And let me tell you why. It's been incredible because I had no appointments, no meetings, and I didn't have a to-do list. I have a to-do list, but I didn't create one and I didn't pull it out. And I have just been catching up on really little silly things that kind of annoy me every day or a mild annoyance. Like, oh, it's time I take care of that. It's time I figure out my printer. It's time the one that keeps breaking, or it's time, all of these little things. And it's been incredible. So if you've been thinking about taking a mental health day and you're on the fence, consider this your permission slip, your encouragement. And I'm also going to tell you, I have a cough drop in my mouth. There's a reason why I'm telling you this. So if you hear it, ordinarily I wouldn't do that to you. If you hear it, it's because I am pretty sure I have developed an allergy to grapes. This is bizarre. So for the past couple of days, I've had this really bad throat thing going on. And at one point I'm like, do I have to take myself to urgent care? Because I'm an hour from a hospital here on Cape Cod. And it ended up going away. And then it came back and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And it came back right after I ate grapes. And then today I just had some grapes. You would think I would need them, but anyway, I wanted to test my hypothesis. I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to grapes. So that's why you might hear a cough drop, but I'm going to get right into it. So the other day I had plans to go to a tent talk. Where I live on the Outer Cape, it's called the Payomet Performing Arts Center. It's an outdoor tent. It's covered and they have all kinds of performances all year. And among many, many other very cool things. One of the events that was coming up was a talk, and it was a tent talk with Lisa Genova. And if you haven't heard of Lisa before, you will want to go out after this podcast probably and buy every single book she has. She's a PhD and a neuroscientist who wrote a number of books, many of which you've probably heard of. I'm going to get into those in a minute. And what she has an incredible ability of doing is she takes brain science and the science behind these diseases like Alzheimer's, like autism, and some rare disease like Hutchinson's disease. And she tells the story of the disease through a fictitious person or family. And it's incredible because you really understand what that person's going through, what their family's going through, what the symptoms are like, what the treatments are like. It's really, really incredible. So her most famous book, ironically, was self-published. I'll get into that in a second. Her most famous book is Still Alice. And that's a book, you may have seen the movie with Julianne Moore and Alec Baldwin. It's about a woman, a Harvard professor, who develops early onset Alzheimer's. And the movie is incredible, very sad. The book is even more incredible. And one of the things that's incredible about the book is you get inside the mind of this person who I believe is a scientist. I read it many, many years ago. And you understand what's going on in their brain. And if you have a mental illness, if you are a family member of someone who has a mental illness, a friend, anything, Sometimes it's hard to understand why that person is behaving the way they are. And she does it, I'm going to get choked up. She does it with such kindness, and it's so real. It should be required reading, frankly. Her most recent book, called More or Less Maddie, is about a young woman who develops bipolar. Some people call it disorder, some people call it disease. This woman has bipolar disorder, and she brings you inside the mind of this young woman. And boy, does it really help you understand what is going through the mind of someone who has bipolar disease. It's incredible. It's really incredible. So I'm going to link to her website in the show notes. Anyway, my point is, she's a neuroscientist who writes all these fiction books. I've read every single one of them. They are all excellent. They're all about a different disease. She wrote a nonfiction book called Remember. By the way, let me back up for a second. Still Alice, it was on the, I didn't even know this until I wanted to get some more facts about her. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 59 weeks. So over a year, this book was a New York Times bestseller. If you haven't read it, buy it and read it. Self-published, by the way. She sold it out of the back of her trunk until a publisher picked her up. I mean, if that is not follow your passion, and if you build it, they will come. Like, that is so impressive. Anyway, her nonfiction book, which was released a couple of years ago, was called Remember. It's called Remember, and it's about the science of memory. I'm paraphrasing here. It's about the science of memory, and she talks about, when you can't find your keys, or if you walk into a room and you forget why you walked in the room, or you don't know where you parked your car. And that used to happen to me all the time, particularly when I was traveling a lot for work. I would park at the train station and I would never remember where I parked when I came back from my trip. And it would be a serious problem because I'd come back at like 11 o'clock at night from New York or whatever. And I'd be like, I have no idea where I parked. And I was getting scared. What she says in her book is, that's not necessarily a neurological disease. That's not necessarily Alzheimer's. That is, you have so much going on and you're doing so many things that you're really not paying attention. It's not a priority for you to remember. And I remember the first time I read that, I thought to myself, oh my God, she's right. I'm grabbing my luggage. I'm probably on the phone. I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. I barely even know that I parked, never mind where. So anyway, my whole point is, I went to this tent talk, and Danny went with me. And, the irony is, we almost didn't go. It was raining. It was cold. It was like a cold, rainy night. And I really, really enjoy her. I've seen her speak. I saw her speak last year, and I said, you know what, I'm going. So we went, and it was a life changer. Here's what she talked about. I didn't even know what she was going to talk about. I knew she was going to talk about something about the brain and memory, but I didn't understand. She talked about how Alzheimer's disease, 45% of the time, can be prevented or significantly slowed down. It doesn't matter if it runs in your family. What she talked about was, if you are genetically predisposed, you can do things based on your lifestyle and how you live that'll tip the scale back the other way and even out the odds, whatever you want to call it. I never knew this, and my grandmother had Alzheimer's. And I believed my whole life that I'm just predestined to get it. So the fact that she talked about the 7 things you can do to stop it. I was like, oh, okay, let me grab a pen. Oh my God. So I grabbed the pen, and she proceeds to talk about the 7 things that you can do. Here's the good news. I do all of them. All of them. I'll tell you what they are. And then today we're going to drill down on sleep. It's sleep. And by sleep, I'm going to get into this. It's meaningful sleep, consistent sleep, and in particular, a certain amount of deep sleep, which is not REM. Everybody I talk to about this thinks it's REM. It's not. This is deep sleep. Exercise 30 minutes a day. Eating a healthy diet, if you will, the Mediterranean or mind menu, she calls it. She doesn't call it a diet because that sounds restrictive. Food that's good for your brain, such as dark leafy greens, dark vegetables, not a lot of processed foods, learning new things. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit, or challenging yourself cognitively. Social engagement, which shouldn't be a surprise to many of us. this is also very similar to the blue zone. If you haven't heard of the blue zone, I'll link to that as well. Stress management, that this was interesting. It's positively managing your stress, so reducing consistent ongoing stress. And if ever you need a reason to get over yourself and figure out how to manage your stress better, by the way, I'm talking to myself here, this is it. Like, it literally impacts your quality of life in future years. And finally, this was really interesting, hearing loss. And the message, what I took away there, and of course I can't find my notes. I took copious notes. I can't find them. So I'm going by memory and a little kind of quick Google search. The theory with the hearing is, if you have trouble hearing and you don't fix it, you don't get a hearing aid or, try improve your hearing, two things happen. One, you're overworking your brain, and you're overworking your brain unnecessarily, and it fatigues your brain. I don't think fatigue is the right word, but it impacts your brain. And also, if you can't hear very well, and it's interesting, I see some people that are very close to me doing this. If we're out to dinner and they can't hear, they'll kind of withdraw from the conversation. So they withdraw from the social engagement, and which, as I mentioned earlier, was one of the 7 things that you can do to make sure that you are setting yourself up for good memory and to not get dementia or Alzheimer's. So the fact that how you live can literally cut your chances in half, almost half, of getting Alzheimer's is it blew me away. So we're sitting there. Let me take you back. So we're sitting there, and she said, okay, she teed it up, and then she said, okay, everybody ready? Everybody's ready. She said, I'm going to tell you the 7 reasons. She goes, number 1, sleep. And I'm sure you knew, I whipped my head around and I looked at Danny, because I am a narc about sleep. Well, let me rephrase that. I try to be very, very consistent and religious in when I go to sleep, and how I go to sleep, all those things. So I'm going to pause this for 1 sec because I feel a little. Okay, Thrivesters, sorry about that. I'm back. I'm going to try to delete that out, but we'll see how that goes. So I take my sleep very seriously. And at the same time, I oftentimes don't sleep very well. So specifically about sleep, I'm going to talk to you right now about why it's important, how much and what kind, and some things you can do to try to get yourself so that you're getting a better night's sleep. Some of it you might know already. I knew some of it already, and some of it you might not, as I did. All right, so here's why. When your brain goes to sleep, the people in the industry call it a brain janitor. So that's when your brain flushes out toxic proteins that form into plaque, and then that plaque builds up, and that's bad for your cognitive function. It really is that simple. So when you're sleeping and when you're in deep sleep, and the recommended time of deep sleep is 1 to 2 hours a night. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. The recommended hours of sleep, it depends on who you ask. Some experts say 6 to 8, some say 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Equally important is the quality of your sleep. Not REM, not core, but deep sleep, 1 to 2 hours. You can track that on an Oura Ring. You can track that on your Apple Watch. I don't have an Oura Ring. I was thinking about getting one. Then I kind of blew it off. And I don't know if I'm going to get one. My watch tracks my sleep. So that's when the power washing of your brain, the janitors in your brain come through and flush out all that toxic protein, or all the toxic proteins. So that's why it's important. What she said that validated a lot of what I already do, and that I also learned a few things that were new that I want to share with you, is here's how to set yourself up for sleep, for quality sleep. Few things. 1, you want your bedroom to be a place of sleep. Since I can remember, I have never had a TV in my bedroom. And if my partner wants a TV, They can have one in the bedroom, but I don't watch it in the bedroom, and I prefer that they not watch it in the bedroom. I know that's a big ask, but I get up early. I'm early and I'm out. So, Danny will watch Good Morning America or the Today Show, whatever he watches. I don't even know, because I'm already out doing something. And at night, I absolutely don't watch it at night. No way, not in the bedroom. Um, a dark. So room darkening blinds or blinds, and temperature. So we have the battle of the thermostat almost every night. Your room should be cold. Okay. Here is what she said that I can't do this. 65 degrees is optimal for sleep. If I can have my room at 70, I'm good. It should be cooler rather than warmer. Okay. So dark, quiet, cold. That's the first thing. Second is your wind down routine. And I'm big on rituals here, but here's what happens to me. And if it happens to me, it might be happening to you if this is something that you're working on. I have my little timer goes off on my iPhone at 8 o'clock, and that's my wind down time. And then at 8:30, I'm like, oh, I probably should stop what I'm doing and start winding down. And then at 9, I actually say, all right, I'm going to go wind down. Wind down for me means this is the time I choose to straighten up and organize the entire bottom floor of my house, everything, particularly the kitchen. That can take about 45 minutes. So if it's 9 o'clock, if my goal is to start winding down at 8, it's 9 o'clock and I start winding down, it's 9:45 before I'm even going up to bed. And that's on a good day. So I can tell you, I immediately changed that immediately. And I only have a few days in, but I have been much, much, much more vigilant about really following these boundaries, honoring my own boundaries, because my life depends on it. So, okay. So winding down is one of the rituals. Having some kind of a soothing scent as part of your ritual. She mentioned lavender. Again, whip my head around, look right at Danny. There's lavender right next to my bed. And no, oh, this goes without saying. I never do this. Having the blue light from the phone. You shouldn't have your phone in your bedroom at all. And you definitely shouldn't be scrolling for about an hour before you go to bed. The blue light triggers your brain to think it's still awake, and it will be much less easy for you to actually fall asleep. I'm sure you've heard this. I'm not going to get on a soapbox and preach about it. And in fact, the reason I don't keep my phone in the bedroom, it's a fluke. Several years ago, when I was vacationing on the Cape instead of living on the Cape, there weren't enough outlets in the bedroom, something like that. Like the charger wouldn't work where I was. And so I started leaving my phone in the kitchen, and it was such a game changer. I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going back to that again. So I don't have my phone in the bedroom. Sometimes I do if Danny's out of town or, if there's an emergency situation, but as a rule, I definitely don't. So no blue light, cool, quiet, dark, and having a routine and a signal to your brain really that when you're in the bedroom, you're sleeping. So this is something new I learned, because sometimes if I can't sleep, I will wake up and read a book, which is fun. That's how I get myself to fall back asleep. Or, I'll make my to-do list or whatever. And what she said that was interesting, this was different than keeping a pad by the side of your bed. I'll talk about that in a second. But what she said was, you want your body to know that when you are in that bed, it is sleep time. You want your brain and your body to know that. Bed equals sleep. So if you're on your laptop in bed, that's sending mixed signals to your brain. She did suggest, and I do this too, keep a little pad by the bed with a pen. Danny actually got me, it's so cute. He got me this little memo pad that's a dry erase memo pad. And I just keep it by the bed, and then I dry erase it the next day, and there it is. Anyway, to get all the thoughts out of your head. But, sometimes you have them in the middle of the night. For me, sometimes my first thought is my best thought of the day. And that's why I have it there as well. So when I jump up, I can just write down whatever it was I was thinking about. My most creative thought is always my first thought of the day. It's pretty wild, actually. So that's how you can make sure that you're ritualizing and setting yourself up for a good night's sleep. And there's a lot of behaviors that she talked about that are what we do here in the Hive. And this really validated that this lifestyle and this community and this way of living that we are all making a priority makes a lot of sense from a scientific perspective. So I'm going to go down the 7 things again. And like I said, I'm going to link to her website in the show notes. Sleep. She mentioned it as number 1. I don't know if it is number 1. And at the same time, I will tell you all the research I did said that sleep, exercise, and diet are the top 3, period. So sleep, exercise, not diet, but your food, your mind menu. Learning new things. I'm going to pause there for a second because I want to talk to you about that. So I don't know if any of you follow Sanjay Gupta. He was my guru during COVID. And I'm just writing something down so I don't forget it because I want to make sure I talk about this. I listen to him every day when we were in quarantine. He wrote a book. It's called Keep Sharp, and it talks about how to keep your brain sharp. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the way Lisa described this the other night is exactly the same thing that he said. And it makes so much sense. So when we talk about learning new things, the way Sanjay describes it, similar to how Lisa describes it, and I'm going to try to do it justice, is learning new things or challenging yourself cognitively is like creating new pathways in your brain. And if you think about this like roadways, let's say you forget how to tie your shoes, and you go down that road in your brain and it's blocked. You can't go down the road. You can't pass it. Since you've already created all these other alternate pathways, your brain is used to, hey, that way's not going to work, so I need to find another way to get there. And your brain will create a new neural pathway to get you to remember how to tie your shoes. So when you're challenging yourself cognitively, it's not that you're learning all these new things, which you are. It's that your brain is adapting to something it doesn't know and figuring out how to get from something it doesn't know to something it does know. Fascinating. This is just so interesting. I think it's interesting. Social engagement, stress management. So, the stress is killing you. It actually could be. And finally, taking a look at your hearing. And for those of you that have a hearing issue, I have a very significant hearing issue. For those of you that do and don't want to wear a hearing aid, the earpods, the newer Apple earpods, a couple of years old, they also serve as a hearing aid, a legit hearing aid. You put it in your ears, you program it. I mean, it is full on, will help you hear. I think it's a little more obtrusive than a regular hearing aid, but whatever works. Oh, this is the one thing I wanted to make sure I didn't forget. And we are going with progress rather than perfection with this podcast, because if this was me like 3 years ago, I would have deleted this whole thing and went back and said, oh, you forgot about this and you forgot about this and you didn't do the intro. I'm getting it out there because the information's the same. Sleeping pills. So I heard this a long time ago. When I used to travel outside the US, particularly to Asia, I mean, you're completely unbalanced. You completely flipped in terms of your sleep. I used to take an Ambien, and it would help me sleep. What I heard a couple of years ago, and I slowed down on the Ambien, stopped taking it. Actually, I don't travel as much overseas as I used to, is that you're not sleeping. It's knocking you out. It's knocking you unconscious. So you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping. You are not really existing except for your body. Your body is working, but your brain, you're unconscious. Your brain isn't. So, I mean, it is, but not as it should be. So Ambien doesn't count. The question was also asked, what about edibles? What if you want to have a little 5 milligrams of indica? Take the edge off, fall asleep, stay asleep, keep asleep, deep sleep, whatever you call it. And believe me, I've tried all of them and I like them. However, it's inconclusive. So scientists don't know yet if when you take cannabis, if it's affecting the quality of your sleep. I am going to volunteer as tribute, Thrivesters. Here's what I'm going to do. I've been tracking my sleep and I'm going to track my sleep. I'm going to track it with a gummy. I take them, and I'm not, I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I take them probably a few times a week. I am, after I heard this talk, I haven't taken one. I will, to see what the deep sleep looks like. And if the deep sleep is still there, I'm going with it. But for now, since we don't know, I'm really focusing on quality sleep. So to me, that means starting the wind down earlier. I've done it the past few nights. I know it, I won't always be perfect. I know that I can try. Starting the wind down a little bit earlier, focusing on deep sleep. And see, sometimes I wake up at 4 in the morning and I'll just start my day. I'm not going to do that anymore. I need to get back to sleep. I need to go back to sleep for at least an hour, if not a couple hours. That's probably not going to be deep sleep. Deep sleep happens, I think it was between like 12 p.m. and 2 a.m. Like it depends on when you go to bed. For me, it was 12 when you go to sleep. For me, it was 12 to 2-ish is when it occurs the most. But I'm gonna start taking it a little bit more seriously. So, Thrivesters, that's what I have for you today. I wanted to get this out to you ASAP. I hope it's helpful. If you take one tidbit away, oh, let me give you one more really quick. I like this one. She didn't talk about it, and I don't think I've even really talked about it. Always after I travel, sometimes after a day or a difficult day, I'll shower before bed. And I encourage Danny to do this often because well, that didn't come out right. I encourage Danny to do this because when you take a shower, sometimes, and for me, it's like you're washing away the day. And I feel fresh and I feel good and I feel clean and I feel like, okay, there goes the day. Now I can sleep with a pure heart. So that's my last little tidbit for you there, Thrivesters. All right, we are back next week. Next week, I have a special guest. Oh boy, you are in for it. This is my number one, I think it's my number one, might be number two podcast that has ever been recorded. It's with Brenda Johnston. If you're an OG Thrivester, you know who I'm talking about. I think this is her third time on the podcast. I don't even know what to say. It's going to be off. We're like texting each other all day long for 2 weeks, talking about all the things we're going to talk about. So I invite you back to listen to that. And until then, go out there and thrive like you mean it.